potent advice, and inspiration from real self-made millionaires. Welcome to the Eventual Millionaire with your host, Jaime Masters.
Hello, and thanks for listening to Eventual Millionaire. Today, we're going to do something a little bit different. So back in October, I was asked to go speak at the Dynamite Circle in Bangkok from Dan and Ian. They run the Lifestyle Business Podcast along with the Tropical MBA, and it was an amazing time. Unfortunately, they did not record it. So I'm re-recording it right now for you specifically, so that way you could understand why they asked me to talk about this topic, which is not something that I normally talk about. And so you could get the most bang for your buck of all the research that I've already done. So stay tuned and let me know what you think. So the guys at the Dynamite Circle suggested a couple names for what this speech is. Now, I'm going to keep this very clean, but one of them was how to keep your personal from wrecking your business, or how to keep your business from wrecking your personal life. So I want to ask, who is an entrepreneur listening to this, or a business owner? I'm assuming that if you are listening to this right now, you are one of those things and or want to be one of those things. The next question, though, is who is in a relationship? Now, of course, our whole lives are made of relationships. We're in relationships with our parents, our employees, significant others, friends, peers, of course. The funny thing is that you could be sabotaging your business without even realizing it. So, in case you don't know too much about me so far, I'm Jaime Masters. I work with 6- and 7-figure entrepreneurs for literally the last 10 years. I've been a business coach. Plus, I've interviewed over 350 millionaire business owners. Hopefully, if you're listening right now, you have listened to one or multiple episodes. And the point is to dive into how they actually did it. I personally also work with amazing entrepreneurs. Some of them you've heard of, like John Lee Dumas from Entrepreneur on Fire, or Scott Volker from The Amazing Seller. I also have a mastermind group with Pat Flynn from Smart Passive Income. So if you guys like podcasts, those are some guys that you might know. But I also work with a ridiculous amount of other companies, quote unquote real companies with real things to sell, like a windows and cement company, game board organization companies, real estate investment companies, all sorts. It runs the gamut all over the world, mostly in the US. But just so you know, the reason why I say that is because I've been in this game for a very long time, or at least it feels that way. So I want you to know that we go ridiculously deep. It's not tactics all day long. It's really figuring out both business and personal issues and how everything affects each other. Now, everyone has problems. No matter how much money you make, no matter how perfect your life looks on Facebook, everybody has problems. So the funny thing is, when I got asked from Dan and Ian to actually come all the way to Thailand, across the world, it wasn't because of, my prowess as a business coach. And didn't actually have anything to do with me interviewing millionaires either. In fact, they didn't really know what I did, to tell you the truth. They were looking at my website going, we know you, Jaime, but we don't know exactly what you do, which is not necessarily a good thing. Good thing I had a new website made. What they did ask me to talk about was one video that I made almost a year ago, talking about my divorce. Very, very personal video. And as everybody knows, with relationships comes issues. And a lot of the times it's not seen on the outside because we put this pretty face on, right? Everything is fine. Look at me on Facebook. All is well in the world. So today, my goal is to pull back that curtain. Now, of course, I can't share anything specific about clients because of confidentiality, but I did go through and research the heck out of this. I asked personal questions to very good friends of mine that are millionaires, along with clients, people that are entrepreneurs with significant others that are not entrepreneurs, all sorts of questions to try and get you the best of the best information to make this easier for 2017. There's a great quote by Aaron Walker, one of the millionaires that I interviewed from View from the Top. He said, "My whole thing is not just winning at work, because if you lose at home at the end of the day, you're still a loser." I agree with this 1,000%. That's the whole point of Eventual Millionaire. It's not about the money. It's about the life you have and the enjoyment of that life. And then the money's extra and fun. So if you want any of the resources from this, everything is at eventualmillionaire.com/DCBKK. It was for Dynamite Circle Bangkok. DC, D like dog, C like cat, B like boy, K like kite, K like kite. See, I really think there's no point of money without an enjoyable life. That's sort of my backstory. If you haven't listened to that already, you definitely should. I quit a 6-figure job and thankfully found work that I actually enjoy doing and can't imagine a life any other way. Not that I could have imagined this life when I was stuck in my corporate job, but the whole point was me going after an enjoyable life. Now, we define enjoyable life as an entrepreneur probably a little differently than most, right? We are not a typical breed. So the typical traits of an entrepreneur, they value growth and progress. You really value and thrive on problem solving. Sometimes that's not necessarily a wonderful thing to your significant other. Creative with tons of ideas because they know the potential and possibilities. Could also be ADD. I know I have ADD. And based on the millionaires I've interviewed, a lot of them have something of the sorts, right? We're very creative. We're running around. We have so many ideas, very visionary, and we know what's possible. Now, if your partner is an entrepreneur, they might understand your craziness a little bit more. Now, if they work at a 9-to-5 job, it might be harder for them to get it. Why work 80 hours a week so you don't have to work 40 hours a week for someone else? I know that's not logical to most people. Also, I started asking what people wanted to hear, and there was a ton of questions. So if you guys have any follow-up questions, just shoot me an email. You should know where to find me, but it's Jaime at eventualmillionaire.com. So I'm going to start to dive into my story, and please excuse the voice. I've been losing it quite a bit. So this is sort of the way that it looked. On the outside, everything was perfect. I'm a bit of a perfectionist, a recovering perfectionist, I like to say. So to me, my goal was to try and make everything amazing in my life. I really want to have the best of the best in absolutely everything I do. That being said, it's sometimes a lot to put on your plate. So I wanted the perfect relationship, the perfect career, the perfect kids. I was with my high school sweetheart, actually. We were engaged at 17. I bought my first house with him at the age of 19. I got married on my 21st birthday, which is interesting, just to tell you the truth. I didn't drink anything and get crazy. I got married, and my parents were there. I got a 6-figure job when I was 22, and we were told that we had the perfect relationship by so many people, and I believed it also. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying anything about him as a human being. We really did work on it extremely hard and had a really great relationship. Then we had 2 kids and a dog, a boy, an older boy, his name's Finley, and a girl, she's Jet. And I found an amazing business mentor when I was about 26 years old. I went online over 6 years ago, and now, to date, I've interviewed over 350 millionaires, written a book, been in Inc., CNN, Entrepreneur actually, again last week, and all sorts more. I absolutely love what I do. I have 5 employees. I charge almost $1,500 an hour for coaching now for just one-on-one work. Though I have masterminds and a bunch of other things. And I have a personal assistant, thank goodness, that does all the cleaning around the house and organization and cooking for most of it too. And of course, that's what social media shows, right? And don't get me wrong, I'm extremely grateful because I've had amazing things in my life. And don't think that I'm saying this just because, woohoo, look at me. The whole point is that there's another side of perfection. So that 6-figure job that I had when I was 22, I utterly hated it. I gained over 40 pounds on that expense account that I had. I was in over $70,000 in debt. Both of my kids had colic extremely badly, and I swear I went clinically insane for a little bit. They both had milk allergies. I couldn't eat milk for over 3 years, or anything of the sorts. When I quit my stable 6-figure job, my former husband was a performer, a juggler and contortionist with super varying income. So in the summer, he made quite a bit, and in the winter, he made nothing. I only worked 20 hours a week, but I literally made squat at the beginning when the kids were little. It pretty much just paid for the expensive daycare that we had. And marriage really started to suffer after the kids and after starting the business. I did over 2 years of couples therapy, a separation of over 6 months, got back together, hours and hours and hours of talking and being upset and crying and all sorts of things. Now, the one thing that I haven't really mentioned very much on the show, or even in the divorce video that I had done before, is that my former husband had borderline personality disorder. We didn't know it for almost the entire time. We just found out just a few years ago. But we didn't know because he also didn't really want to get help. We thought it was just depression and anxiety. So there was a lot going on behind the scenes. Let's just say that. And he's totally cool with me sharing all of this, by the way. You can follow him on Instagram. He actually says that he's borderline personality because he creates amazing art all about it. That being said, my business became an escape. I kept thinking, do we really have to rehash this stuff over and over and over again? My time is so valuable and I have so many more important things to do, which isn't necessarily good. Let me say that. But the funny thing is when we did get back together, we decided to move to Austin, which I adore. He still lives here. He adores it also. I literally got divorced a month, or finally separated, a month after moving here and unpacking, all while launching my book. And this was all almost 2 years ago. The funny thing is that my business doubled about 2 months after the final decision, and it was already doing 6 figures. I had no idea how much this emotional burden, this emotional turmoil that I was dealing with was affecting me. Heck, I thought since my business was my escape that I was working more, I should be doing way better, especially at those final months. I gave everything to the relationship as best I could. I really, really wanted to save it. This perfectionist brain is not good with failing at anything. I don't want anybody to think that it was a happy option in any way at the beginning. But that being said, if you have a bad fight with your partner, you might take it out on your employees. If your significant other doesn't want you working very much, you feel extremely guilty. I remember answering emails in the bathroom because I had to get back to people, but he would give me the stink eye when I was working too much. And don't get me wrong, there's always compromises, but when we finally called it quits, I felt like myself. I felt like I could make my own decisions. I felt clear. Now remember, I was also with him since I was 16, and so having your own identity when I turned 32, I couldn't see myself as a human being otherwise. I finally felt clear, and it was because I wasn't holding myself back because what I thought he wanted. Bit of a codependent relationship, let's just say that. I really wanted to make him happy no matter what, and dealing with the ups and downs of borderline was rough. So when I didn't have that emotional toll on me, I was finally clear and I went all in. I was able to do the stuff that would push me outside of my comfort zone because I knew I could accomplish it no matter what, and I wasn't making somebody upset in the process. So it feels even weird talking about this here. I do feel like authenticity is rewarded online. But I remember hitting upload on that video, that divorce video, and I was so scared. Now, don't get me wrong, I had talked to my former husband. I was actually going to have him pop in the video so everybody could know that we're all okay, because it felt extremely shameful, right? I was admitting failure to absolutely everyone. I only decided to do a video about it because everyone kept asking why my last name on Facebook changed. I had made the decision to become Jaime Masters instead of Jamie Tardy. And thank goodness the outpouring of support was amazing. I got emails from people that were in similar situations, and I was so thankful I talked about it. Ridiculously long emails, heartfelt emails from people thanking me for putting it out there. I also got asked out a lot, which was also very interesting, and I have weird stories on that. But where is that line of vulnerability? Before I made that video, I really verified it with my former husband to make sure. He did not want me to talk about borderline personality disorder beforehand, so I didn't say anything about that. He didn't want it to seem like we were blaming that for the reason. I actually said, here's the video. Do you want to take a look at it? And he was so busy, he didn't actually look at it beforehand, but said it was fine to post. All that being said, I am not a relationship expert. So when Dan and Ian asked me to do this, I tried to go out to find people that had amazingly happy marriages and success in business to figure out what they did. And it was great research for me also. So what I want to do is walk through the typical reasons for divorce. And I don't necessarily want this to only be about divorce. I really feel like it's about communication in relationships in general, which we can use in so many other aspects of your life. But there's a great quote, an actually awesome book called For Better or For Work, a survival guide for entrepreneurs and their families. And the person that wrote it, her name is Meg Hirschberg. She's actually the wife of the Stonyfield co-founder, Gary Hirschberg, and the author of this book. She said, any marriage is going to have fault lines, of course, but the particular stress endemic to entrepreneurial businesses can add great pressure. So let me ask you one very, very important question. What is your top priority? Don't say it out loud, of course, especially if your significant other is in the room, but is it your business or is it your relationship? So we're going to go over piece by piece and not only give you the reasons for divorce, but things that can actually fix it during your relationship now. So that way we can really improve that communication, really make sure that they are your number one. Because if they aren't the priority, you could end up someplace you don't want to be. So the reasons for divorce are financial strain, neglect, lack of communication, and divergent goals. So let's go over the first ones first. Now, I'm not really going to go super deep into financial strain. You listen to Eventual Millionaire on purpose, right? Of course, it's a huge issue dealing with cash flow, startup, but this is also normally what I always talk about. So as far as making more money, I got that covered in all the other episodes. What I want to do is help you go through anything else. And of course, like I said, if you have any specific questions on this, definitely let me know. So the first one is neglect. And what I'm going to do is go through specific steps that I found from the millionaires or my clients that make a huge difference in these pieces. So the first one is to set metrics or a weekly meeting. So I put it in terms of business owning because came from business owners specifically. But since you can really look at your specific relationship in terms of happiness, right? We want to set metrics so that way we can find out where we are on that line. So you've heard of KPIs, key performance indicators, and they kept coming up over and over and over again when I was talking about relationships with some of these millionaires that I researched. Dan Martell of Clarity FM, he sold that. He's a millionaire I interviewed, was just talking about this. He's been asked over and over and over again for a course or something from him and his lovely wife. So that way other entrepreneurs can understand what it's like to have a really great relationship. She is also an entrepreneur. So if you get this a lot, how much work is too much work? Do you feel like you're working all the time and your significant other is giving you the stink eye when you're working too much? This is how we figure it out. With metrics. Now, I actually do this for my clients, and maybe it's not a 40-hour week. Maybe you are okay with having it be 60 hours, and so is your significant other. But the point is to actually determine what it is. The typical entrepreneurial trait does want to work often. It's actually a millionaire myth that everything will be perfect when you have the money, right? When the company sells, when I hit 1 million. But most millionaires love working and are overachievers that just love progress. So that's something that's always going to be there. So if you're like that, we really need to get you super clear and on the same page. What that weekly meeting can also be called is date night. That's what Pat Flynn called it. So being able to actually take a date night, go over your metrics and go, hey, did I actually work 40 hours a week? Or maybe it was 60, maybe it was 80 and they weren't okay with that. And maybe it's just because you've got something crazy going on this week, but next week you're going to actually do more with the family instead of as much work. It's just making sure that everybody knows exactly what's going on, just you and your significant other. And I highly recommend doing it in someplace fun or a specific weekly date night where you always go and you just bring that out. Don't make it most of the meeting. At least that's what it talked about. Don't make it most of the date. You just want the KPIs to just be like, hey, how am I doing right now? And you both do it so everybody is on the same page and you can compromise on a week by week basis instead of letting something get really, really big before you talk about it. The next tip, especially for neglect, is to actually take a real vacation. And I understand 1,000% that a real vacation without your laptop is quite foreign to most people listening right now. But that's sort of the whole point. Dan actually goes on quarterly retreat goal setting trips with his wife. So how many vacations have you actually taken with just your significant other? Having that time specifically just for you without the kids or without the crazy business stuff or without it being because you were going to a conference anyway is extremely important and really shows that you're not neglecting. So the other thing that I think is extremely important, and actually I want to give you a challenge right now. So if you're listening to this on your phone, you've got it very close to you. Don't do this, of course, if you're driving or if you might fall or something like that, if you're running. But this is what I want you to do. I'm going to challenge you. This is what I do for my clients. And you will most likely hate me at first, and you will love me later. So I want you to take out your phone, and I want you to actually remove Facebook. Dun, dun, dun. Right? So the point is to actually have no phone times, right? Where you put the phone away, whether it be dinner, it definitely should be dinner, but it should also be after a certain time of night or something like that. So everybody is really clear on exactly what happens when. I actually make most of my clients delete Facebook and other social media apps off of their phone because you have Facebook Messenger, you have Facebook groups. There's really no excuse to have that gosh darn newsfeed on your phone at all, just so you know. And I understand that most people that are listening right now will not like me, the fact that I said delete Facebook off your phone. Later you will. It's a challenge. I totally understand. Please challenge yourself so that way you can test it and see if you like it better or not. All right, the next piece is under lack of communication. Now you are smart and you know that you can't change anyone. You can only change our side of the equation. So that lack of communication potential issue begins with you. One of the things that I think is most important is to change your assumptions. Behavior follows assumptions. And an assumption is something without proof, right? I think it's like this. You've heard the saying, it makes something out of me and you. I'm trying to keep it clean for everybody listening. What I think is really important is sometimes we assume that we know what our significant other cares about. And sometimes you're wrong, just to tell you the truth. So one example from me is I used a thing called the 5 Love Languages. It's actually a book and a test. And if you go to eventualmillionaire.com/DCBKK, you'll actually be able to take the quiz. It is free. I think you have to enter your email address or something like that. And no, I'm not an affiliate for it. But what was eye-opening for me when I first went through it was I had no idea what I received as love. Now, the funny thing is that I actually use this in all aspects of my life. I actually know what my clients' love languages are. And for example, what a love language is I have a client and one of her very top love languages is words of affirmation. There's 5 of them. So hers is words of affirmation. I know that if I tell her how amazing she is, because she is, she loves that. It feels amazing to her. Yet I have another client whose top love language is gifts. And not necessarily like expensive type gifts, but knowing that I'm thinking about them or knowing that it's important for me to go, oh, I thought of you. And so I send them gifts. Now, if I were to send the gifts to the other person that cares about words of affirmation, it might not hit the mark. It might not even be close. And for example, in my previous relationship, my top love languages are not what my former husband's was. His are acts of service. Acts of service are like doing the dishes and sweeping and cleaning the house. I'm not huge fans of that. In fact, I didn't understand at all why he cared so much about that. Well, now I do. It's because that's how he starts to receive love. If somebody negates doing the dishes, it means way more than just dishes. Lesson learned. Now, mine are words of affirmation and touch, and actually gifts, which is also interesting because I never thought I'd care about stuff, but I do. I want to have somebody thinking about me when I'm not there. So when you start looking at how they receive love, it'll be way easier for you to actually give them what they want. It saves you so much time and effort. If they don't care about getting flowers, then do not get them flowers. If they do, then yes, you do the most ROI humanly possible, right? Most bang for our buck. That's what we think about as an entrepreneur. Okay, the second part is about male versus female brains. Now, it's a little different. And again, this is just for typical. Please, no horrible emails about me, categorizing. I'm a female. I'm allowed to say this, right? There's a very big difference. And we might want to call it masculine versus feminine instead of male versus female. But typically, females or that feminine side want security and safety, even female entrepreneurs, right? They want to have an emergency fund. They want a little bit more certainty. They want to know how much revenue is coming up. Does that make sense? And the typical males or person that's masculine wants to be more hunter-like, willing to take calculated risks for higher rewards, not like sell your house kind of risk, but if they're confident in their skills and ability, they're going to risk more. And that doesn't mean their confidence is right, of course, but it means that they're more confident in making more uncertain decisions. And this is something we learn as we're going through as an entrepreneur, and your risk tolerance, I should say, may vary for sure. There's actually also a Tony Robbins test about the basic human needs, and certainty versus uncertainty is on there. And you can actually rank them on what's important to you. So to me, even though I am female, certainty is important, very important, but not as important as most, just because I've been that entrepreneurial brain like humanly possible. But if you have somebody that's in a 9-to-5 job that really cares about that certainty, that matters. And the way that you speak to them is going to make a huge difference. This is where that assumption part takes role also. So way you communicate with others is all on you. You need to take ownership for how they're interpreting you also, even if it's wrong, right? That's not what I said. It doesn't matter. Being able to make sure that your communication is clear to the person you are talking about is extremely important. That being said, this was one of the most eye-opening tips that I had gotten from anybody. So, the last tip under lack of communication is do not share everything. I know, right? Your significant other is supposed to be your rock. They're supposed to be the person that goes with you for the ups and the downs. The problem is that sometimes they can't handle the ups and the downs the way that you can as the entrepreneur. So what was recommended is actually to not share everything. You don't want to go to your significant other one night and be like, I just lost 2 clients. I don't know what money's coming in, or all heck is breaking loose in the business and we're going to be screwed for a little while, right? You don't want to tell that to somebody who thinks safety and security is extremely important. They will not like your business. They still love you. They will not like your business. And so for bringing them on the roller coaster of ups and downs. So that being said, we as entrepreneurs definitely need to tell somebody about the ups and downs, because holding it all in also sucks. What I suggest, and this is what I got from everybody that I talked about, this is actually from one of the books also that I was doing research on. Don't share everything, but get somebody within business to help you. So whether it be a mastermind or whether it be somebody that you really trust, a peer, where you can share those vulnerabilities, those ups and downs, where you can go, I don't know what to do right now. I'm scared. And they can go, you know what? Let me see if I can help, especially if they're a problem-solving entrepreneur type. That's more of what you want when you're stuck there, or just having somebody listen and understand what it's like to go through that stuff is extremely important. But you telling your significant other and having them ride a roller coaster with you can be detrimental to your relationship. And I've worked a lot with husbands and wives that are married and in a business together. Also family. I've worked with a lot of different family-owned businesses, brothers and parents and all sorts of different configurations. And the husband and wife is actually kind of difficult because they bring everything home with them. I've recommended therapy more than I ever imagined that I would because it's usually communication issues. So please, please, please do not think therapy is a bad thing. You will learn so much about each other. And no offense, it might actually help your business even more by going to therapy instead of hiring a business coach, just so you know. All right, next up, divergent goals. So let me say this. Divergent goals, something extremely important. That really happened in my relationship also. I felt like I was growing really fast and achieving lots of amazing things. And it was tough to see that. So there's a very big difference between fixed versus growth mindset. There's actually a great book by Carol Dweck called Mindset. And Todd Herman, who's a millionaire that I interviewed, actually referenced that book specifically and the fixed versus growth mindset in one of the interviews that I did. To put it in a nutshell, the fixed mindset is where people believe that their basic qualities, like their intelligence or their talents, are fixed traits. They might not even realize they're doing this, by the way, but that they're fixed, that they can't change them. A growth mindset, and most likely this is you if you're listening to this right now, think that you can change and develop personally, right? Personal development is for you. So the question isn't, does this work or does this not work? Is, are you okay with if your significant other is a fixed mindset person? Because then you have to change your expectations of them, okay? And can you live with that? Do you match? Can you live with that? And if you can, awesome. And if you can't, figure out what you're going to do about it. And again, it might be therapy. It might not be anything more than that. But knowing how to approach somebody like that, again, is that assumption piece that's really going to make a difference. The next tip is something that I loved because I hear this all the time and I talk about mentors constantly in business, but it's to find a relationship mentor. So find somebody that has what you want in a relationship. Maybe they've been married for 30 years and are still happy and cute, right? Kissing each other and lovey-dovey. Or maybe it's somebody that's been in business and gone through the ups and downs like crazy and weathered the storm so they can tell you tips and advice from their perspective. Okay, so find a relationship mentor. Actually, my best friend meets with her relationship mentor every other month for dinner. She takes her out to dinner. She's been married for a ridiculously long period of time, and they go over what works and what doesn't work, and she gets to see how they interact and what they like. So being able to actually embody and understand what works in a relationship and how they actually go through the problems, because everybody's got problems, figuring out what those pieces are so you can actually have what somebody else has and get the information just like in business. Very important also. So find a relationship mentor. I know it was tough when I was going through this to try and find somebody that had a happy relationship that was an entrepreneur. So Dan Martell and his wife are definitely one of them. Michael Hyatt and his wife are definitely amazing people to start looking at. Not saying that you should ask them to be your mentor. I'm just saying that it's really amazing to be able to see people that are very clear in their love for each other later on and have been married for a really long period of time. So lastly, under divergent goals, I think it's really important to take a really clear look and assessment at where you are. And one of my clients, his name is Michael Brunix. He actually was a therapist for many, many, many years. Now he's a coach and he actually helps people with their relationship and entrepreneurship and mindset issues and all sorts of stuff like that. He created a Rate Your Relationship Burn After Reading PDF. I love that name, Burn After Reading. Do not show it to your significant other if it's not good, okay? But what it does is it goes through the 10 parts of your relationship and you put metrics to it and you rate it and you find out if it's something that you can improve on. That way you know which pieces and parts of your relationship you actually need to improve on. That being said, burn it after reading. And you can go to eventualmillionaire.com/DCBKK in order to get that PDF. I don't even think there's an opt-in for it. So you can get all the links to the books that I mentioned also. Now, one thing that I have to put a cap on at the end of this is that mastering your business includes mastering yourself. So after all of these interviews, after working with hundreds and hundreds of clients and seeing their progress and or lack thereof, it really begins with mastering yourself. This is what people call mindset or whatever the heck you want to call it, personal development. Those pieces really matter in your success. The way you look at something makes a huge difference to how you react to it. And so what I highly recommend is really turning that light inward. I know if you're listening to this, I'm sure you care about personal development, which I really, really appreciate. But one thing that I highly recommend, and this comes up over and over in the millionaire interviews, is really creating that mental space. Because one of the great things about being an entrepreneur, so we're never satisfied. One of the biggest problems about being an entrepreneur is that we're never satisfied. So one of my mantras is that you'll never get it done and you can't get it wrong. Makes me feel better. You're never going to get it done. There's always going to be more tasks and you can't get it wrong because there's no such thing as failure. It is all learning. And I know you've heard stuff like this before. You've heard about creating that mental space, but that shift in me actually clearing out what goes on in my crazy entrepreneur brain. I know I work with so many of you. I know exactly what you're thinking. No offense. I hop on the phone with clients and they're like, how do you know? I'm like, because I am one. I totally understand. I can predict what your brain is going to do. Just so you know, I've been doing it for that long. So what I highly recommend is to take some time out and try and do a bit of meditation. Now, I know you're probably going, Jaime, I'm not that type. I can't do that. I said that too. Haha. So do most of my clients and people that I recommend this to. So I have to warm you up a little bit to it. So I would recommend if you can literally take 10 minutes this week and download either Talkspace, it's called Talkspace, Headspace, sorry about that, Headspace, or Talkspace is therapy, actually, to tell you the truth. You could get that too if you want. Headspace, it's an app on your phone, or Calm, which is another meditation app on your phone. I love recommending Headspace because it walks you through, I think, like 10 days of just getting you used to not doing anything. Okay. And like I said, in a couple other of my interviews, I meditate every day, not because I think it's the cool thing to do, but because I get so much out of it. And at the beginning, I couldn't do it at all. I would fall asleep, actually, to tell you the truth. But what I think is really, really important now is the clarity that I have in my brain, which is something really hard to find for the crazy, typical entrepreneur brain. Especially the worrier that I was when I was little. It was insane. I used to worry if I didn't do my homework the right way. Miss Perfectionist. Okay. So I've come a long way, baby. And I want you to be able to say that too if that's an issue with anxiety or stress or all these things, worrying about stuff that never come to fruition. As an entrepreneur, you don't have to deal with those. I know we think that we do, but we don't have to. It's the way that your brain looks at all of this that matters. So that being said, I am losing my voice, as you can tell, and I have a couple more stories, but I'm going to actually leave you with this. Ryan Moran, my very good friend here in Austin, he runs capitalism.com. He created a Facebook post, and I've shortened it a little bit for you, but he created a Facebook post that I ended up sharing with so many people I know because it was so impactful, and I wanted to leave you here with this. He said, "Remember, you're in this game to enjoy it. We so often hear about what could be, what's wrong with the world, and what needs to be different. And we miss the point. When I was a kid, all I wanted to be was a millionaire. Now that I'm a millionaire, all I want to be is a carefree kid. When I had a small business, all I wanted was a big business. Now that I'm growing a big business, I miss the days when it was small. I realized the other day that there's two sides to everything. There are the problems that you see in everything, and then there are the positives of the exact same situation that someone else wants. We feel the problems and we miss the positives. We rarely, if ever, see the positives while we are in them, unless we pause to enjoy them. We only reflect upon them later, which creates a sense of longing. The beautiful curse about being human is that we are wired to look for problems that need to be fixed. That doesn't make us happy. It makes us ridiculously miserable. But it does make us grow and survive. We have to consciously pause and think about what is great. but you get to control whatever you focus on. And I can promise you that someone longs for what you live. They long for the little moments that we all ignore, even though when they had it, they would have longed for something else. No matter where you are, what you are up to, or what is going on, you have so much to be thankful for and to appreciate. Ryan has amazing words, and I've had quite a few friends actually pass away recently. So please say I love you to everybody. Please make sure that you hug your kiddos tight. And I just want you to know how appreciative I am that you are actually listening to this right now. I'm so thankful that we live in the world of the internet. So I actually can reach you from no matter where, even when I lived in the middle of nowhere in Maine, and that you actually listen. We have so much opportunity and so much to be thankful, grateful, and appreciate. So please, after this, just take 2 minutes and really think about those things and feel it in your body, because we don't do that enough. I wish you the best of luck. If you have any questions at all, definitely let me know. You can email me at jaime@eventualmillionaire.com, and have an amazing, wonderful day. Take care. Bye.